Hello, my fellow comic book collectors. This is going to be another Q&A video because it's Wednesday. And on Wednesdays, what I do is people ask me questions from last week. And this week I answer them. So when you ask a question, I give your channel a shout out. So it's a great way to promote yourself if want to leverage my channel to do so. And, you can learn some cool things because I learn from your questions. So people ask me really interesting questions, and sometimes I actually have to do some pretty heavy research for them. And if you want me to do some research for you, just ask the question below. So with all that being said, let's get into this week's questions. And the first question, which I actually had to do a little bit of research for, is from Mike Swintel. He asked, and this is a bit of a long question, but it's a good one. He mentioned that I had the Aya Green Lantern. That was a previous question that I'd answer about Aya. She was a Green Lantern character that's kind of obscure. She's kind of the voice for the Interceptor and became actual physical form later, and then was in the animated series. So that was the kind of heavy research kind of question that I answered a few weeks ago. But here's the kind of question that he asked this time. Could you find out exactly with the Fantastic Four issues that Bruce Timm did the covers for? I know there was a series called Fantastic Four World's Greatest Comics Magazine series from around 2001, a 12-issue limited series. I've read many different versions of what he did on the series. He penciled and inked some, just inked some, just penciled at least one, and wrote one story. Any help would be appreciated. I collect Bruce Timm covers. I believe you do. You said you do too. Okay. So yes, I collect Bruce Timm. I am a big fan of Bruce Timm. I actually got into Bruce Timm because of the Batman animated series, and I really loved that whole style. And actually, I don't have the comic that he mentions, which is World's Greatest Comic Magazine. I don't have that. So I wanted to show something, though. So I'm going to show you this. This is actually Bruce Timm's first artwork. And this is Masters of the Universe, and it's Grizzlor, the Legend Comes Alive. Okay, so this is Bruce Timm's first cover artwork. And you can see his name right there, Bruce Timm. Okay, so that's something Bruce Timmish. But to answer your question, that had nothing to do with the question. So the 12 issue series ran from December 2000 to January of 2020. No, I keep on saying 2020. January of 2002. And it really, the January one was really released in November, but it has a cover date of January. I don't know why they do that. It's like 2 months early, but that's beside the point. So it ran from really 2000 to 2002. Okay, so there was 12 issues in the series. Bruce Timm inked all of them except one. He number 10. So all like issues 1 through 9, he inked. 11 and 12, he inked. On issue 10, that's the special one. That's the one you want to look for, because Bruce Timm did the cover for that issue. So the cover is by Bruce Timm, and Bruce Timm also wrote one of the stories. So look for that particular issue, and that's issue number 10. He kind of did the cover with Joe Signet, and because I was like, oh, I saw the little JS on the cover. So if you look at the cover, you see Bruce Timm's signature, and you see Joe Signet's initials. And one of the things that I thought was interesting, I was kind of like curious. I noticed that the way Joe Signet signed his initials, he makes his J like a 4. And he does that on purpose because he was the artist that was kind of involved with Fantastic Four from 1965 up till 1981. So he had a major run on Fantastic Four, and this obviously this series as well he did. So he was involved with. So the interesting thing, I kind of got into a little bit of research about Joe Signet, and I thought, I'll tell you what I learned. So the J, he always makes his J looks like a 4 because of his, I think it's because he's trying to show that he had, a major influence on Fantastic Four. The other thing is that he actually inked right up until 2019. And he was working on Amazing Spider-Man at that time. So he kept on working right up to 2019, and then he retired. And he died the next year. So don't retire, people. I always hear this. People always die a year later after retiring. So that's the same with Joe Signet. So yeah, he was 93 when he died. So I thought that was kind of interesting. A little bit of extra information, not about Bruce Timm, but I thought it was cool anyways. So definitely look for World's Greatest Comics Mag, Fantastic Four, World's Greatest Comic Mag. It's a really long title. Number 10. It's the one with Bruce Timm cover and story by Bruce Timm. Okay, so that was the answer to that question. Another question was from Black Box, Silver, and Bronze. Another question I have about your SOTI collection. How do you file the collection? Do you keep it all together as a SOTI collection, or do you file them under the series name? Well, the way I store my SOTI collection is actually I have it in my office. It's the only collection that I actually keep in my office. It's kind of weird. I like it so much. I keep it right beside me when I work all day. My office is at home, so it's not like it's that far away from my other comics, but I like to have my Seduction of the Innocents books all together and near me. So it's weird, I know. But it's in 2 boxes. One is for all the slabs, and I have another box which has all the raw copies for the collection. So it's just in 2 boxes. But I keep them separate, even though they are really parts of different runs. For example, there's several issues that are Wonder Woman, there's Batman's, there's other related ones that I have boxes for, but I basically removed those issues from my Batman box or my Wonder Woman box because I want to keep all the SOTI books together. So I hope that answers the question. And I'm a big fan of getting all of the Seduction of the Innocent books. So I'm only a few away. I'm only I think 12 or so away now. Okay. Brett Bottomley asks, okay, I have to ask, you have an amazing collection. How on earth did you afford it? Of course, it's an intrusive question, and I would not blame you if you banned me. I feel many viewers will have this question. Did you buy when they were less? Are you independently wealthy? Or is there some other way? Great videos. Okay, so Brett Bottomley. I wouldn't ban somebody for asking whatever question they want. I don't really care. I'm actually very open about how I afford my comics. I mentioned it in previous videos, actually. If you go back, I kind of mentioned a little bit about the story. So I'm going to actually pause on that answer because the next question is kind of related to it. So I'm going to kind of put the two together. And the other question is from Rocket Fighter 8. And Rocket Fighter 8 asked, what is your life story outside of comic book collecting? So those two kind of go back together. They kind of play hand in hand. So just a little bit about my history, just a quick history. I was born in 1973. This is the Cole's Notes version. I don't want to bore you guys with my life history because I'm not that interesting. but I was born in 1973. My parents are both doctors, so I had really smart parents. The funny thing is, my whole childhood, my parents were kind of building this nice house, and they didn't tell us. They didn't tell us they were building this amazing house. And what happened was, we always lived in rentals, really kind of crappy rentals. So I always thought we were poor. I came sort of with this poor mentality, like poor boys mentality, and so most of my childhood, I thought we were very poor, and I sort of grew up with that poor, working hard mentality. So whenever I'd buy anything, I'd work to raise the money myself. Even if I was a kid, I would do like odd jobs or whatever it was to raise some money to buy whatever it was that I wanted. And I would never ask my parents for anything, actually, for the most part. I was pretty pretty low key about that. Even when we would go to restaurants, I felt like, oh, we're poor, so I got to be careful. I always order the cheapest thing on the menu, and I would never order a drink. I'd never drink at a restaurant because I knew that the cost of the drink would be too much. So I try to keep the bill really small. It was weird. That's my childhood. So I was very frugal as a child. And that's important because what happened was, later I found out my parents had built this big house, and we weren't so poor. But then they were kind of house poor, strangely enough. So they were poorer when they actually built the house than before the house, because that was during the 80s, and then there was crazy inflation, and the interest rates were brutal. So they were actually poorer after we moved in, but it was kind of weird. So yeah, so it was kind of weird, that whole situation. But it taught me how to work hard, first of all, and taught me how to be very frugal about the way I use my money. Fast forward many years, when I got to university, like I was kind of like, I went to like international baccalaureate school, so I had pretty good education. And then I went to university. I studied physics, which was the dumbest thing to study. Don't study physics, kids. It's not smart. It's dumb. There's no jobs in physics, okay? So don't get a job. Don't go into physics unless you're going to be a PhD in physics. So I did physics. Totally. I was not a great student in physics. I was taking all honors physics classes, and I was like one of the worst students in the class. There was only 6 of us. It was really, really, yeah, it was not the greatest thing. Afterwards, I did some computer programming classes. I learned how to program in like 10 different languages, so I knew how to program really well. And then I met my wife, who was studying English in Canada. She's Korean, and she was studying English in Canada. And I fell in love with her, and decided to go back to Korea with her because she had to finish her education in Korea. So we both went back to Korea, and she had 3 years left in her degree. So I stayed there for 3 years while she finished her degree. And that was kind of an interesting time for me because that really taught me how to work hard. Before before I had some work ethic, but I was a little bit lazy comparative to after the time in Korea. Because if you're an English teacher in Korea, you work from usually 8 or 9 in the morning, usually, till 9 to 10 at night. So you're working really early in the morning to really late at night. And then usually you're working on weekends because you want to make extra money. So you're doing like side jobs. So I was teaching 60 classes a week, just to give you a sense, like how many classes I was teaching. And I was teaching Yuchiwan, which is for kindergarten. It's kindergarten kids. So I'd have like 15 kids in my classroom, and they would just run and try to kill me most of the time. And I would try to keep them under control and try to give them some sense of English. I was terrible at first. The first year, I was not the greatest teacher. I tried everything, but I didn't know how to teach kids. And I learned. I got good at teaching kids, actually. So my last 2 years, the kids loved me. It was kind of sad, actually, when I left. They were very emotional. They threw me a party. They actually, out of their own money, these young kids spent their money to get me all this stuff to, have a little party. So it was kind of very emotional, kind of leaving of those kids. But yeah, it was an interesting time. So I spent 3 years in Korea. I learned Korean. I can speak Korean so, and I basically worked really hard there and saved up some money. And by that time, it was like 1999, and the internet bubble, the not bubble, but the internet boom was happening. And it was like real, like you said, you had a website. Oh, here's $1 million. There was just so many people throwing money at anything website related. So I thought, hey, I'll start a business online, and I will become an internet.com millionaire. And actually, I was very successful. I created an art website called You Can Buy Art. It's no longer on the internet. It ran for about 10 years, but um, and I made it the most successful art website at the time. It was like very, very popular. It was rated as one of the best of the web. CNN did a story on it. It was kind of cool at the time. Um, and but it wasn't making huge money, to tell you the truth. It was kind of breaking even, made a little bit of money so I could survive. And I ended up doing marketing because I was good at marketing. That's how I made the site successful. So I did marketing for a whole bunch of real estate agents, and that turned out to be a huge business. And then my partner in that screwed me over, and so that didn't go anywhere. And it was like one of these things where you kind of build your business over the years. So my business started in really 1998, and I've been running it since up till now. And so it's been growing each year in different ways. There's always like goes up and then gets killed by something stupid and then goes up and then goes. And so I kind of built this business over the years. And now I have about 20 employees around the world. And I have about 400 clients that I manage all over the world as well. So I have like offices in the Philippines and in India that basically they do a lot of the work. And also I have employees in Canada. So pretty much that's my business. And the way I make money is actually I do the work behind other companies. So a company will claim to be a web design company or a web marketing company, and they'll hire my company to do all their work. So they'll just send me all the stuff. I don't have to manage the clients. I'm just dealing with the actual work, and I'll get my team to help me with that. So it sounds easier than it is. It's a lot of work. So I work pretty long hours, usually anywhere from like on a slow day, like a 10-hour day would be a slow day, and like usually at the beginnings of the month and that kind of time period, I'm working 20-hour days where I get very little sleep. I might not get any sleep for a couple days in a row, and that's kind of typical. So I work really long hours, and if you work really long hours, you can make good money. So I make reasonably good money, but I have to constantly work. I'm always broke because I'm spending too much money on comics, but I've built up that business. I don't really have any debts, so I own my house outright, and I have like no savings though. I'm totally like don't have any savings except for my RSSPs, which is a retirement plan. But really don't have any savings, which is kind of dumb. So not a recommended way of doing things. My comics are my savings at this point. But it's just me having fun. I'll probably save money later. I put money at least aside for retirement and for my kids' education. So that was really the planning that I've done there. What else can I say? But the point is, I have all this money that I'm using just to buy comics and have fun. I've been having fun for the last couple of years buying comics. It's not necessarily the best use of my money, but it's fun. I enjoy comics right now, so I'll probably do that probably until I die, but I'll probably slow it down is my goal. But I don't recommend spending the amount of money that I spend on comics because it is a bit much. But I have to work hard to earn that money. So that's kind of my method. Also, I was kind of very fortunate about a lot of the comics that I bought. A lot of the Silver Age, Bronze Age, and modern comics that I bought were comics that were way lower than they are now. Like, pretty much most of my comics have gone up 4 to 5 times. Some of them 10 times have gone, amount gone up. Like, I bought a 3.0 of my Amazing Fantasy for about $12,000, which is really expensive. But that book now goes for $30,000, $40,000. It's kind of crazy. So, so it, like, a lot of the books that you see, I either work really good deals, or I try to, I bought when they were still affordable. A lot of the time, what I'll do is I'll buy when the market dips on something. So I try to buy smart as well. And that's maybe some of that frugalness that I mentioned that I grew up with when I was a child. That I still try to be a little bit frugal about the way I buy things. So I hope that answers the question. I kind of revealed a lot about my personal history. There's actually a lot of cool stories that happened like with my business. Actually, I do a lot of public speaking. And when I do those speeches, I get really into the whole history of my business, because I do education things for small business owners, where I teach them how to run a business and how to make money. And I teach them about my business journey. So, that's a whole different topic. And I actually have a YouTube channel about that, believe it or not, but it's kind of weird. it's more about the marketing side. So it's a very different topic than comics. So I hope that answers both of those questions from Brett Bottomley and from Rocket Fighter 8. I hope you enjoyed that answer. A little bit of a rant, felt like. Sorry if that, you can I should have told you guys that you could have fast forwarded this one, because I'm not sure how much my life story is that interesting. Okay, so here's the next question. One sec. I'm just making sure I got all the right questions here. Okay. Are there any obscure, attractive female comic book characters from the Golden Age that you would like to see revived in today's comics? I know that Miss Fury, Miss Mask, Miss Tree have had recent comics, but do you know of any others in the pipeline or that you would like to see? Good show, by the way. The information about blockbuster films, profit margins is very interesting. Okay, that was referring to last week. Okay, so I'm going to show you a bunch of female characters that I enjoy, because I really like. My collecting history is really 90s. That's when it kind of formulated my whole collecting mind. And 90s were all about the bad girls, and I love female characters. I like sexy women, like good girl art. So when I started collecting Golden Age stuff, I brought that over. And I really do love female characters. So I brought a whole bunch to show, because, hey, I love this stuff. Okay, so I'm going to show this one first, even though I really don't know much about this character. But I thought she was kind of a cool looking character. And, her series was interesting. So this is Molly O'Day. And she's kind of like a detective. And, she's kind of like that sexy, kind of sophisticated, very classic Golden Age woman. If you kind of think about what the Golden Age female heroes were like, they were usually debutantes or elite women, like very successful, come from money kind of women. And Molly O'Day is kind of like that. Like, the very sophisticated women, and they're in a men's world, but they want to take part. They are interested in it. They don't mind getting their hands a little bit dirty. They always seem to get either tied up or something, though. But this is kind of like Molly O'Day. So I really like these kind of characters. So this is Molly O'Day. I'm going to show you some more. Just on that same kind of theme about female detectives, there's this one, Sally the Sleuth. I really like her. I think she's hilarious. Just like this is her right here. This is her first cover appearance. This is Crime Smashers number 2. Crime Smashers number 1, which I also have, which it's in my SOTI collection, is not here. I don't have it handy, but she's not on the cover of that. That's her first appearance. So she makes her first appearance in Crime Smashers number 1, but she's actually a Platinum Age character. So this is her first comic series, but she actually appeared in a pulp magazine earlier. So she's from the 1930s, and it was 1934, I believe, and it was Spicy Detective. So it's a magazine that I'm actually looking for because I really like this character. But she's interesting because she's one of those characters that she's in a weird way, she always solves the crime in terms of like finding out who the bad guy is, but then she always gets captured by the bad guy. So it's like, and then in the pulps, it was like a bit more sexy. Like in the Golden Age, they kind of toned it down. But in the pulps in the 1930s, she would always be like, her clothes would get ripped off, or she'd get whipped, she would be in bondage. Like, and it was pretty extreme. Actually, really interesting comics from the 30s. The Golden Age version of her was much more toned down. No nudity, no but still, a little bit of that bondage stuff going on. So I like Sally the Sleuth. And this is a character I'd really like to see. I'd almost like to see that Platinum Age version of her being brought back, and a little bit of sexy fun would be kind of interesting. So and she's very similar to Molly O'Day, that kind of sleuth, detective thing, but maybe not as like Molly would be much more adept at actually defending herself, where Sally's just always captured for some reason. Okay. The next character, and I have her first appearance and her first series, is a Black Phantom. And this is her first series, and this is her first appearance in Tim Holt number 25. And I believe she's kind of a cool character as well. She was a bad guy in Tim Holt, but she's kind of one of those characters, kind of like Catwoman, in the respect that she's kind of bad but kind of good, like a little bit of both. And she has this guy that works for her, who's like this big oafy guy with a whip. But yeah, she's kind of a cool character. I think she'd be a really interesting one if they bring back Westerns into comics, because she's obviously a Western kind of style character. And yeah, kind of a little bit of Zorro-esque because of the mask. I don't know. But I think she would be a cool character as well. Okay, another one that I like, and I only like it, I haven't read it, so I don't know much about her, tell you the truth. But I like it. I like the style of the art. It's Ken Ball. Ken Bald. This is Sun Girl, and I've been trying to get all the issues of Sun Girl. This is Sun Girl number 2, or 3, actually. Sorry, number 3. It's just it's a low grade copy, but it's just really, I just love the style. I just love that Golden Age style. I'd almost like it, if they're going to bring back these characters into the modern era, I'd almost like them to do it with a classic style, like make it look like the Golden Age. Why not? Just have that kind of classic, like Golden Age, the hair and the style. I just would really like to see that. I think it would be interesting. Sometimes when they bring back characters, they try to give them a modern twist. I'd almost like it where they kind of almost leave them in that time, that Golden Age time period, and give them that kind of Golden Age feel. Some of the characters, I feel that way. Other ones, I think they could modernize and it would be okay. Like Sun Girl's one example of that. But another one that's definitely an example of one that I think has to stay in that Golden Age is Blonde Phantom. Now, there has been a few comics that have brought back Blonde Phantom. What's it called? Good Girl Art Quarterly has brought her back. But Blonde Phantom is just another character, and I just love the style. Like, her costume is just so 40s, like just has that look to it. This is just a, that's just an example of her style. I just love the dress and just the whole style of her. Another character that I think they could bring back, and they have brought her back into the Bronze Age at least. I'm not sure if she's been brought back even more recently. Is a character from Submariner, and that's Nomura. This is Nomura right here. I believe I'm not. I don't read Submariner, like the more recent versions of Submariner, so I don't know if she's been brought back into the comics, but definitely a character that's kind of a major character for Submariner or Namor, and kind of a cool character. I just think she's kind of sexy and kind of cool. I like sexy, cool characters. So yeah, I actually, this is one of my favorite covers for her too. There's another one where it's Nomura #1, and that's a really cool cover where she's kind of jumping out of the water. But I like this one because it has like a little bit of that golden age bondage style thing going on. And she's actually the one saving the girl, and Submariner's just doing his own thing. I think that's kind of funny. Okay. And another character that I really like, this one could be really, she's kind of timeless in a way, is Torchy. Really great character. Just a fun character. She's kind of like a girl who kind of relies on her looks and just has men swooning over her, and it's just a fun character where she always seems to be a loser in life. She always that's the funny thing about her. She should be super successful. Like, these men are literally throwing money at her, giving her jobs, whatever, but she always seems to have this weird luck where she messes things up. And I think that's kind of humorous about her. Like, she's always like, she's rich one day, poor the next. It's kind of interesting about Torchy. So I think she could be a character that they could have a modern version of her, but I'm not sure in today's environment how much they're willing to allow women to be sexy. I think women, that's one of their powers. I think, this is like an aside, a bit of a anti-woke thing. I always hate how they portray women nowadays. They portray women as men, and I hate that. Let women be beautiful. Like, if you think about the story of Samson and Delilah, Samson is a super strong guy, strongest guy in the world, and his power is in his hair, right? And then you got Delilah, who's just a pretty girl. At the end of the day, that's all she is. She's just a pretty girl, and she's smart. She uses her wits and her looks to seduce Samson, and she can conquer him. Like, no man could conquer him, but she could, because she could use her beauty and her seductiveness to conquer this super powerful guy. Well, I think that's how Torchy is, and all these kind of like typical, female, who really embrace their beauty. And I think that's something we lack nowadays, where we try to make women just like men. Oh, they can do whatever we can do. And I think that's really takes away from what makes women strong. Like, a woman can be much stronger than a man in the respect that men will just fall for women just because they're beautiful. And I think they should really embrace that. And I love to see that embraced in the comics. So Torchy is kind of like that kind of character that really has this power over men. And she might not even realize it 100%, but she's kind of like the typical ditzy blonde, maybe a bit. And she's just a really great character. I just really enjoy her. But I'm not sure if she could be made in today's climate. So just a character I enjoy, though. Okay. Another character that I enjoy is Lady Luck. And this is another character that is that typical socialite that, puts on a simple mask. Like, it's like such a simple thing, like a little veil over her face. And all of a sudden she's Lady Luck. I think it's kind of funny. So, again, a really interesting character. So I that's been my rant about female Golden Age characters. and something we need to return to. I love a lot of those female characters because they could be truly feminine, and that's something we lack nowadays. Um, okay, now I'll probably be banned for life because I babbled about anti-feminist things. Okay, but hopefully my viewers will appreciate that. Okay. Um, Star Podlog and Star Pod Trek podcast wrote, "Do you still have any comics from from childhood? What were some of your earliest comic book memories?" Okay, so I actually brought one of the first books that I got that was a collector's book. Like most of the books that I got when I was a kid were Gold Key, like Disney related stuff. And I do have those all in a box, and I just didn't take the time. Sorry. I really, it's behind so many layers to get to them that I just decided, it's too hard to get to them without destroying my whole comic room. So I didn't bring those ones, but I did bring something that I got when I was very, very young. And it was sad that I wish I didn't get it when I was very young because I didn't appreciate it at the time. And it's this book. This is Captain and the Kids, which is one of the earliest comic books of all time. It's actually from 1935, so it would be a Platinum Age book. And I put my hot chocolate on it. Like I actually used it as a coaster for my hot chocolate, and it actually spilled a little bit and ruined the book. And I it's kind of sad, but I think I even drew in the comic. I just got it when I was too young, didn't appreciate it. But it is like a really, it was given to me by my grandmother. Let's see, I wrote on the back. Yeah. And, I wish I had appreciated it more when I got it, because I didn't realize what a major piece of history this book is. But it's kind of a cool book. In this grade, it's not really worth that much, to tell you the truth. But my grandmother gave me this. It was kind of that early, like I thought it was kind of cool, even though I didn't appreciate it as much as I probably should have. I thought it was still really cool that it was like this old book. Like I just thought it was really weird that it was a book, first of all, and a comic. I thought that was really interesting. And it was one of those ones that, strangely enough, I liked the book, but I didn't appreciate it in terms of protecting it. I didn't protect my comics at the time. So a lot of even my gold keys, they were all like rolled or bent. Like I read them and I abused them as a result. And they show the wear. And this shows the wear too of having enjoyed it. So yeah, so Captain and the Kids, that's one of my earlier books. When I got into comic collecting as a collecting thing, I really liked Malibu comics. So I'm going to show you just a few. I didn't bring that many. I actually have the complete Malibu collection. And this is from the early 90s. I really liked Malibu. So this is Mantra. I really enjoyed Mantra. And it was like Ultraverse Malibu is the press. And it's basically like a whole bunch of different characters. So Mantra is like a man stuck in a woman's body. And she has powers and stuff. She goes around fighting crime. And then we got, like, I should have brought Supreme and a few others, but I brought just a few examples. And this is Wrath. They're all like these kind of rip-off characters off of a lot of either Marvel or DC. So this is like Prototype. This is like obvious rip-off of Iron Man. So Prototype. It was kind of interesting that he had this kind of suit of armor that he would go around in. It was kind of cool. And then we got Nightman. And I like this one as well. This is very similar to Batman. Like kind of similar idea. So yeah, you can tell I paid $4 for it. And this is Nightman #1. And that was back in the day. So I kept the actual original bag. These ones were strangely all kind of mangled. we had a bit of a house flood. My wife spilled water all over my comics, basically. She was doing something in the kitchen. It overflowed into the basement, and it landed all over my Malibu collection. So it was kind of sad. So they all got mangled, and they all kind of have a little bit of water damage. Some of them are better than others, but yeah, that's what happened. So those are some of my childhood things. Those were the ones I collected at in university when I had no money, and I was just whatever money I had, I'd go out and buy comics instead of food. So I was not necessarily the smartest guy in university, but that's what I liked. I really enjoyed Malibu comics. And those comics today are completely worthless. So it's kind of funny. But I really enjoyed them. I really liked Malibu comics. The next question, and the last question actually, is from Ragman Comics. He wrote, "Hello, my question for your next video. Have you ever given away any comics to friends at Christmas or just for fun, etc.? Please do not note the 1K giveaway." Okay, so I actually gave away one major comic to my brother. So as I said, when I was a kid, we grew up reading Uncle Scrooge, all the Gold Key kind of ones, Disney comics, and just a whole bunch of kind of cool comics from the Disney series. And Richie Rich was another one I really enjoyed. These were the things that my brother and I both enjoyed. And he really liked Uncle Scrooge. Maybe even more so than I did. He was really into Uncle Scrooge. But I liked Uncle Scrooge too, so don't get me wrong. So I ended up getting this comic. This is Walt Disney's Donald Duck, and it's 4-color 178. And this is the first appearance of Uncle Scrooge. So it's kind of like a kind of a cool book, right? And I got it in a very low grade when I first got it. I got it in a 2.0. And then later there was an auction where there was a higher grade, 5.0. And I was like, oh, I could upgrade. And so I ended up buying it. I almost paid the same amount for the 5.0 as I did for the 2.0, which was kind of weird. It was like I bought the first one on eBay, and I overpaid, I think, at the time. And this one I got from Heritage Auctions and got it for a better deal. But what I did was the 2.0 I didn't need anymore because I now had the 5.0. And I knew how much my brother liked Uncle Scrooge, so I sent him the 2.0. And that was his Christmas gift. I thought it would be a really cool gift because it's a Christmas comic and he likes Uncle Scrooge. So I thought, yeah, he would like that one. So that was my Uncle Scrooge giveaway. And, sometimes I don't really give away my comics very often. I did do the giveaway at the 1,000, but I don't really give away my comics too often, except for my son. I gave him a whole long box filled with comics, and he's gotten a whole bunch of I gave him a Golden Age Phantom Stranger, a whole bunch of Simpsons comics, and a whole bunch of Swamp Thing comics, because that's what he was interested in. So I hope that was interesting, and thanks for your questions this week. And I'd like to say, if you want to put your question below, you can ask me anything, and I will try my best to answer it, and answer it with all certain openness, and I don't, I'm an open book kind of thing. And you don't have to agree with my answers, just so you know. Sometimes I say weird things, and I know that. And I just, I just always want to keep the discussion open. So if you have questions, if you, want to ask me whatever, I'm open to it. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.